how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Hot Gamers Only, the show where we talk about everything that's hot in the world of games. I'm your host, Ethan. I'm joined today, once again, by my co-host with the co-most. It's Hunter. Hey, Hunter.
What's up? How's it going?
I'm alright, man. I'm alright. Just chilling, as always, on a Sunday night, ready to try and rush this podcast up in the next 5 hours. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. I'm also joined by the Weeb Wonder himself. It's Kyle. Hey, Kyle.
Yo, how's it going?
I've just said, how are you doing, though?
I don't know. I'm just annoyed. You missed a chance to say you're doing swell and you didn't take it. So.
Oh, that's how I'm doing, by the way. I'm just swell.
Always happens. But yeah, this is Hot Gamers Only, where every week on a Monday we come to you to talk everything about the world of games. If you like what we do, you can find us on podcast services everywhere: iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, you name it, we're probably on it. You can go to YouTube at bit.ly/thegiggers. That's bit.ly/thegiggers, and catch the video podcast on there as well. If you're over there, please hit us with a subscribe. We'd really, really appreciate it. We are going live every Monday at 5 p.m. UK time, 12 p.m. Eastern. So hey, you know where to find us. Literally everywhere. I don't think there's a podcast service we're not on at this point. So yeah, please watch/listen on whatever you want. This week we're doing a bit of a weird one because our plans kind of went out the window. So we've gone with like a last minute suggestion topic from Cal, which is one that Hunter's extremely excited to do.
Yeah.
This week we are doing our thoughts on the first 6 months of the game of the year so far, as stupid of a term that is because we're only halfway through. Favorite games of this year is probably a better way to say it, but hey, we need that clickbait. And then we'll spend the second half of the episode talking about all the games that have yet to come out, and see how we feel they'll fare against the first half of the year, which I've not played many games at the start of this year, but there's been some pretty strong ones, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So I don't know where to start. Has anyone ranked them, or have they just got a list of games? That's what I want to know, because we've all kind of just gone away from this. You've got a list. How about you, Hunter? I assume that Hunter's ran away, so
no.
I'm just going to assume that he's also ranked his, and we'll just go from there.
Alrighty.
This is typical.
That was an accident. I'm sorry.
Well, that was an accident?
Yeah, I started talking and you said that I ran away, and I was like, oh, but I have a list. I didn't rank them, but I have picked a favorite.
Okay, so you've picked a favorite, right? So let's... Kyle, I'm going to go to you first, because I know me and Hunter have played very similar games this year so far.
All right.
There's a bit of leeway, but I think I have an idea of where Hunter's feeling. So let's start with you.
All right. So I think I'm going to start off by bringing up Trials of Mana for PS4, Switch, and PC.
Mm-hmm.
So Trials of Mana is a remake of Seiken Densetsu 3, which released on the SNES in Japan only.
Yeah.
And it got a remake recently, and it came out a week or two after FF7 Remake did. So it kind of got lost in the shuffle. So it's a really solid game, honestly. It's like live action combat. So if that's it's a live action combat JRPG. You start off the game picking 3 of the 6 characters.
Three
of the 6 potential characters to
the combat is like the Tales series. If I'm
all right. It's pretty similar to that. Basically, it's kind of like Tales, kind of like a fighting game. Actually, it's pretty similar to how FF7R combat is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Story's pretty solid. The game, it's not too long. I beat it in like under 30 hours, but I had fun the whole way through, and honestly, I kind of want more of the Tales game or the Trials games. I mean, Tales games are good too, but more Trials games would be awesome. So if you are interested in like a short JRPG, give it a shot. Game usually runs for pretty cheap nowadays. So, and it's only came out a couple months ago.
Cool. Yeah, I've never. That's the thing, right? Trials is always one of those things where I've heard of Trials, and I've seen it, but it's never been something that's like kind of I've gravitated towards. But you know what I'm like with older IPs and stuff like that. I'm just like, I respect them from a distance, you know. I'm like, I respect everything that you've done and that you're great, but I'm just not personally going to get invested. But with this new remake, it seems interesting at least.
I know Sam is a huge fan of Secret of Mana on the SNES, which is a game I've always wanted to play, but just never really felt motivated to. But after playing Trials, it really spurred me on to want to do that.
Nice.
Get to that eventually.
Yeah, so there you go. Trials of Mana is the first little shout out.
Oh, please give it a shot. It's so good.
Yeah. If you're into RPGs, JRPGs in particular, then yeah, definitely go check that out. Hunter, what game are you going to speak to me about now? Come on, tell me. Which one of this list is going to be talked about? Yeah, which one?
All right, well.
Should we do the ones that we've got separate first?
Okay, I know you didn't play this one. Doom Eternal.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Have we talked about that? Have we talked about Doom Eternal?
It was the first episode.
I feel like we literally haven't talked about this game since then. I feel so. This is interesting.
Doom Eternal, the great bombastic shooter sequel to the 2016 game. It expanded upon the mechanics and made it even more violent and gruesome. They added some cool traversal platforming, and overall, if you liked Doom 2016, you would most likely enjoy Doom Eternal. If you're bored of bland, boring military shooters or stupid spacey shooters, you'll probably like Doom Eternal because it is a shot of adrenaline compared to those.
My thing with Doom is, and I said this on the first episode of the podcast, and I'm going to repeat it again just so people can shun me once again, is I own the original Doom. I have the box right behind me on my shelf, and I just haven't played it. It's one of those games that I need to play it at some point. It's just, I've been saying this to my friends recently, where I'm just kind of on a first-person shooter, like, kind of like, I'm zoned out of them. Like, they're the most boring thing to me right now. Like, my friends are always having a go at me because I've not been playing, like, I've not been going on my PlayStation that much because most of the multiplayer games these days are all first-person shooters like Overwatch or Call of Duty or, name another one, Apex. There you go.
Valorant.
See? Valorant. I mean, Valorant's on PC and I ain't having that. But the whole first-person shooter genre to me has kind of gotten a bit tedious to that point where it's like I don't want to play another one right now. So
that's
maybe
how
Doom
I
might
felt
be the cure.
Before I played Doom 2016, with the light exception. But before that, I was like, "Oh, shooters are lame," and this turned me around to at least knowing that there's an exception or two out there.
Nice. Would you say Doom Eternal is better than the original or not? Because I've seen people have this debate.
Okay, so it kind of depends on what you're looking for. Doom Eternal is a bit more of a thinking man's game as far as how the stuff feeds into itself is in the mechanics. And it's also a little longer. So Doom 2016, you could be in and out and, have your explosive fun relatively quickly. Doom Eternal goes on for a little longer, so the platforming and traversal isn't necessarily some people's thing, but it's overall just more of Doom 2016, so yeah.
Okay, very cool. So there you go, Doom Eternal. My problem here, right? My problem here is I have genuinely, the way we're doing this is we're doing all the games that have come out this year. I'm sure I've mentioned it before.
That's coming from me if those sirens are being picked up, by the way.
This is on our end. You're not being pulled over. Don't worry.
Oh my god.
That's never happened. That's a first. That's a first.
Just some nice ambient noise.
Yeah, just some ambient noise. That's just what you needed. I genuinely bet you, if anyone was listening in the car, they just had a mini heart attack. And I'm sorry, but that's hilarious. So my problem is with my games this year. I've only played 4 of them. One of them is I'm the only one that's played it, but I don't want to bring that up first because we'll get to that in a bit. 5. We've played that one as well. Oh, fun. I forgot about this one. Let me just add that to my list. So I'm just gonna name a couple of games that I've played that I liked, but I don't think we're gonna talk about these this much. I mean, you might talk about one of these, but I want to quickly bring up I've been playing the P4 port. It's a good port, but it's P4, so we're not counting it.
Yeah.
It did come out. I would recommend, if you haven't played P4, to get the Steam port because it's a really good port. The other one that I just wanted to quickly mention that we've all been playing is Clubhouse. Clubhouse is a great little collection of games.
I forgot about that.
That didn't even.
It's a great little collection of games. I just wanted to mention it, but again, we're not going to talk about it. So I guess the first one that I'm gonna,
want our thoughts on it.
I guess we've got podcasts on them. I don't remember the numbers anymore because we're that high into the numbers, right?
I don't remember either. It's whatever one came out after PS4 reveal.
Well, we're on 16-15, so it would have been 14. Yeah, 14. 14 for Clubhouse. I'm getting there. Maybe. Who knows? The game that I'm going to talk about, because I probably have more to say about this game than Kyle, even though he's also played it, is Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Oh, you sure do.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Animal Crossing New Horizons, right? Animal Crossing New Horizons was this came out at a weird time where it took the world by storm for a good month and then it's just kind of disappeared off the face of the planet.
I don't know about that. It seems like it's still going strong in certain circles.
It's still going relatively strong.
But it's not in certain circles, where it was when it started.
Massive. My thing with Animal Crossing is it's really well done. They've done a great job on it. It's an Animal Crossing game, right? Mm-hmm. There's nothing special about Animal Crossing. It's not as big of a leap as New Leaf was. New Leaf very much was a big leap from the previous entries where you were the mayor. Yeah, New Leaf, exactly. Exactly. God, that was terrible.
They all are.
They all are.
But New Leaf was definitely a bigger jump than New Horizons. I mean, New Horizons is arguably one of the best looking Switch games.
Yeah,
by far,
for sure.
It looks amazing. It plays great, and it held my attention for a good month before I put it down.
Same.
My thing with Animal Crossing this time around is, would I recommend it? Yeah, it's great. It's a great Animal Crossing game. It's a great Nintendo game. You should pick it up. It's just the way that they're doing updates this time is kind of weird, where they keep adding things as they go along, which I'm sure is great for the people that are part of it. But for me, it was some of these missing features that made me kind of leave earlier than I usually do with an Animal Crossing game. Like, they've added diving and swimming again into this game, which was something that I thought was missing from it. And I was like, 'cause it was in New Leaf, and I'm like, oh, well, that's gone. And that whole part of the museum's gone. They upgraded the museum a month after launch, and I was like, why wasn't that there at launch? Because everyone's wondering where the paintings are and stuff like that. It's just a lot of little things where I'm like, this game's great, but it just couldn't captivate me like previous Animal Crossings did. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's a shame. And I mean, hey, I own the Animal Crossing Switch, right? So it feels weird that I haven't really played it. Well, I say I haven't played it that much. I played like 70 hours of it.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those weird things where it's like, to me, the Animal Crossing is great. It's wonderful. Would I recommend it? Yes. It's a great game. Yes. But at the same time, there have been other games that I've preferred to play this year. And it doesn't really stand out as much. But hey, it is one of the best games that's come out this year. I really like it, and Nintendo did a great job. Mm-hmm. It's a shame that it's the only Nintendo game that's really being released this year.
Yeah.
Of any substance. We'll talk about the other one that's coming out. But yeah.
Then for someone like me who'd never played Animal Crossing before, like, this was my first exposure to it. It was enjoyable for like the month I played it. It was just a good time waster more than anything. Just something to like play in, because it came out like it was something to do in between classes, pretty much. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, I only have an hour. I don't have time for anything else. Let's boot up Animal Crossing.
Did you ever get that robot made?
No, I didn't.
Oh well,
dude, the materials take so long to find.
Yeah, you need like 10 gold ore, and I have like 2 in a month of playing.
But yeah,
there are sirens going on in the background again.
Yeah, double bill, dude. They're coming back round. They're wrapping back round.
I don't remember what I was gonna say.
Animal Crossing.
I remember Animal Crossing. The thought's gone. Whatever.
The thought's gone.
Animal Crossing's fun. I made my villager look like Virgil from DMC3, awesome. And then I pretty much stopped playing the game. So
you changed your villager so much, whereas I kind of just.
I love character design.
Yeah. I just kind of just went for it. For me, it was for the most part, it was just me. And then I dyed my hair bright blue and made a ninja joke once, and then the blue hair just stayed. So there you go.
The other thing I remember having a lot of fun with was the Animal Crossing pattern tool website, where you could like put in an image and convert it into something you could put in the game. Yeah, I remember goofing around with that a lot.
Yeah, my town flag is still Jeff Kaplan from the Overwatch team.
It's okay, dude. At the front of my like walkway when you get off the plane, it's just a picture. It's the picture of you on Splash Mountain.
Oh, nice.
I sent it to Sam too. I just had it there waiting for a day when he would be like, "Hey, can I come over to your village?" And then that never happened. And then we both stopped playing the game. So now it's just sitting there.
One day you guys
will pick it up again, and Ethan will have a nice little surprise that he'll forget about.
We'll just come back for the Christmas update.
Exactly. So yeah, Last of Us. Animal Crossing, pretty great.
The other end of the spectrum.
Take a drink. I'm obviously already losing it. Kyle, go on then. What's another game? Sirens are on our end. Hunter, are you being hunted? Are you okay?
No, I don't know what's going on. I live in the middle of nowhere. This usually isn't an issue. Someone must be dying outside or something.
So, Kyle, what have you got to add?
So, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX is a good video game. Full stop.
Is that all you have to say?
So I grew up playing the original Red Rescue Team on Game Boy, and this remake was like pretty much everything I could have wanted in a new Mystery Dungeon game. New in air quotes. Because I mean, like, everyone thought Mystery Dungeon was just kind of dead. No one was expecting it to come back. And then you had that direct at the start, that Pokemon Direct at the start of the year, where it looked for sure like that's when Pokemon was about to announce the Diamond and Pearl remakes, and then they pulled out fucking Mystery Dungeon. And I'm like,
expansion pass,
we don't talk about that.
Anyway.
But no, Mystery Dungeon, it's a really good, if you're into roguelike games, it's a really good romp, really good story behind it. It's a ton of fun. It doesn't have all the Pokemon in it because the original game only Gen 3 was out at that point, so it only goes up to the end of the Hoendex. But in the remake, they added in any evolution to pre-existing Pokemon.
Oh, that's cool.
As well as Mega Evolution. So I think it's really nice that they did that. It just, I don't know, it's nice that they like developed with the times and didn't just leave it barren.
Yeah.
Be like, why can't my Magneton evolve anymore? Wah.
Wah. Wah.
Why does Roselia stop being shitty?
Mystery Dungeon definitely came out at the wrong time for me.
Really?
Because it came out at that time where we had Animal Crossing, and it was right in that ballpark where I literally had two other games that we'll mention in a little bit come out within like a week of each other, and then Mystery Dungeon was also in that mix of those games all coming out at the same time. And I think it would have been one of those things where it was like, if Mystery Dungeon had literally came out like a month later when there were no games coming out at that point, I would have 100% picked it up. Mystery Dungeon to me has always been a franchise where I've played little bits of them and then I've stopped. And I've never really been engaged enough in one of them to kind of carry on going through, because they're long games as well. That's the thing, is for a Pokemon spin-off, they're extremely long. Like most of them are longer than actual mainline Pokemon games in terms of like story content. So
even after beating the main story, there's still a shit ton of stuff to do in post-game. Like the game just keeps going on forever, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it can definitely be overwhelming.
Yeah, so it would have been one of those things where it's like, hey, if it came out a month later, I definitely would have picked it up and gave it a go. But I didn't, just because it was in such a populated time. And Mystery Dungeon to me is something that I'm not 100% that interested in it, but I would have been willing to give it another go.
Yeah.
I feel like if they do this treatment with Sky, then that will probably be the thing that will be the turning point.
Oh, sure.
For me, because Sky is the
amazing.
only mystery dungeon game that I've at least got like played more than like 5 hours. I played I got quite a bit into it, but that one to me is the pinnacle of the mystery dungeon games.
Oh, it
and
was
I feel like
so good.
if they do a remake of that one, then I'll definitely be in.
Sky was fantastic, and I would love a remake of that. But yeah,
I'm
Mystery
happy
Dungeon,
that they're kind of returning to form with it.
For sure. Mystery Dungeon, ton of fun. Give it a try. Demo of it is available on the eShop. I forgot to mention there's also a demo for Trials of Mana if you want to give that a whirl. You can carry over your save data. So give it a whirl.
There you go. Give it a whirl. Hunter.
Yep.
What are we talking about next?
Next, I will talk about another game I know for sure that neither of you have played, Resident Evil 3.
Oh, that is
true.
I know.
Never played a Resident Evil game.
Yeah, Resident Evil 3 Remake was a really good recreation of the original Resident Evil 3, and also a pretty solid follow-up to the Resident Evil 2 Remake, keeping the momentum for the series strong. Nemesis is a very good monster to chase you throughout the game. It's a very cool thrill ride in the kind of way that a disaster movie is.
Yeah. I get you. My thing with RE3 is I don't think have I mentioned this on the show yet or not. My father plays video games and he's playing RE2 right now.
Oh,
and nice. I just find it hilarious because not only can I hear the other PS4 taking off in the other room from this room the other side of my house, like I can just take my headphones off and go, oh, I can hear the slight sound of a jet plane, so my dad must be playing Resident Evil 2.
Yes.
But no, it's just funny listening to him have a panic, literally jumping all the time and trying to work it out. And that's why I feel like these past couple of years of Resident Evil, right? There was such a drought of good Resident Evil content for so long.
You know
So now that people are starting to fall back in love with this franchise again after 7 and now 2 and 3, it's a good feeling to have people actually look at Resident Evil in a positive light now.
I know. It's like your friend getting clean after struggling with addiction or something.
That's one way to put it. So yeah. What do you think of the overall package of RE3? Because I know a lot of people say that it's a very short game for what it is.
All right, so the overall package, I really enjoyed my time with it, and I didn't replay it, but it promotes replaying it a lot inside of the rewards that you get, and I enjoyed the time I had with it all the way through, and I don't know, probably will replay it sometime in the next couple of years. So that was worth my money to me. It may not be worth everyone's, $60, but also it's probably discounted by now. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think it held up the quality of RE2?
I think Resident Evil 2 was a little better, but I also thought that Resident Evil 2 was a little better than 3 originally anyway. But there were certain things going on that I knew the reason for the differences. Like in Resident Evil 2, if you shot a zombie in the arm a whole bunch of times, you'd see its arm disgustingly kind of drift off and sever. If you do that in 3, it'll just explode the limb.
Oh, okay.
So that's probably because there's more zombies on the screen at one time in 3 because of that being the given scenario. But so there's little details like that where the quality is taking a slight dip, but I understand why.
Yeah, I get it. So there you go, Resident Evil 3. I've got 2 choices now because I've got 4 games left. One of them, I'm going to go with this one because me and you have played this game, Hunter, and I ended up liking it a lot more than you did. And the other option is picking one that I know that we've all played, and Kyle can speak about that game a lot more than I ever can. So I'll let Kyle talk about that one.
Gee, I wonder what it is.
Yeah. So I'm going to put this one on my list. Prepare for the hate. Although, to be fair, from everyone that has watched our Last of Us content, and thank you for watching the Last of Us content quite a lot. The spoiler cast got a lot more traction than I thought it would do, so thank you for that. We do appreciate it.
Good work,
But
guys.
Yeah.
good work. Thank you for listening to us ramble. The Last of Us Part 2. To me, out of all the games that I've played on this list, The Last of Us Part 2 is the best, like, is the most well-made game I've ever seen in my life in terms of like actual code, like what's been put into it, right? I'm not saying it's not my favorite game of this year. I don't think it's the best game of this year, but just from a making games aspect of it, it is a marvel that not only does it run on PS4, but it runs so well and it looks that great, and the number of accessibility options still blows my mind when I think about it. Like, Naughty Dog put their heart and soul into that game. And it shows, right? Whatever you think of the story, whatever you think of the gameplay, which if you can say somehow that the gameplay's worse in Last of Us Part 2, you're delusional, because it isn't. Story, we can have that argument, but the gameplay is miles better than the original. There was just something about The Last of Us Part 2 that just really clicked with me. And it's not my favorite game that came out this year. There are multiple games that are higher than it. But there's just something about that game that I still think about it. Ever since we finished it, ever since we did that spoiler cast a week ago, and I finished it like just over a week ago, it's one of those games that just still lingering in my mind. I'm still thinking about it. And the more I think about it, the more I'm impressed with the storytelling. And that's just my 2 cents on it. For me, I can't, like, it's not my favorite Naughty Dog game because there are multiple great Naughty Dog games, right? And I still think that, to me, just overall, I had a more enjoyable experience with Uncharted 4. But hey, that was a much more positive game, right? But I think it's the best Naughty Dog game. From a game standpoint, I think it's the best Naughty Dog game. It drags in places, but in terms of actually how well it's made and the accessibility option and everything, I think it's the best Naughty Dog game. Hunter, you can talk about it now.
The Last of Us 2 was pretty good. I still liked it. Yeah, the level of polish in this game is crazy. And the accessibility options are something that unlike any other game I've seen, as far as that's concerned. The story and how you like it is that's up to each person. But, I thought it was fine. Honestly, it wasn't anything outside of what I was expecting, as far as I'm not going to be up in arms about what they did.
No.
It had some really good moments as far as things that they delivered as well. And yeah, there's stuff that I still think about after finishing it too, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite game that I've played this year either.
Yeah, it's not my favorite. I respect The Last of Us Part 2 so much as a game, and I can't wait for all the people to criticize me and call me a Sony shill or whatever, right? But it genuinely, it's just that's so damn impressive. And I know that Naughty Dog has these problems with crunch, and there's all this other side of Naughty Dog that they really do need to sort the fuck out, right? But from the finished product and just everything that's in it, it's great. It's great. And I feel like this is interesting. I have 2 games higher than The Last of Us Part 2 in my so far. And I think it'll be more interesting to see when we come to December and we do our big discussions on it and we do all of our awards and stuff, to see if this game will have gone even higher in my rankings, just because the more I think about it, the more time goes on, the more I'm like, I really like that more than even I thought I did. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, Last of Us Part 2, I'd recommend it. And me and Hunter said this so many times in the spoiler cast, it's something to hear the spoilers on the internet, and it's something to watch someone play.
Yeah, if you've been interested in the game, go play it. Don't let people's opinions on the internet.
You really need to play it. If you play it and then you don't like it, that's fair enough. But don't let just the spoilers or some YouTube commentator who's being extremely toxic for no reason form your opinions. Go make them yourself. Go play the fucking video game. I can't believe I have to say this about a video game. But go play the video game and make your own mind up. Then hate it.
And if you do hate it, don't bother the people who made it.
Yeah.
Don't harass them.
Don't send death threats to VAs.
Yeah.
Don't send death threats to Laura Bailey.
That.
And don't send death threats to Neil Druckmann or anyone on the team, Haley Gross or anyone. No one deserves.
If you can't draw the line between, reality and fiction, invest in something a little less complex, like coloring books.
There you go.
Or maybe just the crayons, since if you're already that far gone, you'll probably eat them before you finish the picture.
You got a point, man. You got a point. Kyle.
So before we get to that big mystery game Ethan was alluding to, I want to talk about some of the DLCs that came out this year that I played.
Okay.
So first off, I want to draw attention to Pokemon Sword and Shield, the Isle of Armor expansion.
Swish.
Pokemon Switch.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it is like Switch.
Yeah.
It is Swish. You need Swish. Yeah.
Anyway, Isle of Armor, very... I can't even say it was lackluster because it's exactly what I was expecting it to be, which was barren and empty and not a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's nice that they gave a new move tutor with all 17 new moves or 18 new moves for all the types. That was neat, and a lot of the moves are really great, but the content itself was very, very short-lived. It was only it took me 4 hours to get through everything.
Yeah.
But of course I was going through with level 100s, and basically I saw before that people were saying that opponents would scale to your level, which they didn't. They capped off at 60. And
they scale to a point.
Yeah. So I don't know. I kind of just got it for the sake of completion, and also because I am kind of a competitor. I need to stay up to date on what's going on competitively, and if I can't have access to those move tutors, then I'm kind of just foobarred. But it's alright. It's good enough. I wouldn't pay $30 for it, but there is another half to it coming out at the end of the year, so we'll see if that changes my opinion.
And they seem to allude that is the chunkier half of the expansion. They seem to have been very clear in saying that part 2 is bigger, so hopefully it's justifiable.
And I mean, the whole Crown Tundra has already been data mined, but I haven't looked into it. I'm just gonna go in and be pleasantly surprised or unshockingly disappointed.
We'll see.
It'll go either way with Pokemon.
What other DLC do you want to talk about? Because I've just remembered that one came out this year.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Kingdom Hearts 3 Reminded.
There it is.
Yeah.
I genuinely did forget about that. I had actually played this game.
That came out at the start of January, or
God, it's been a long year.
January 23rd, the end of January, start of the year.
Yeah.
So the actual Remind part I didn't really care for because it was just a lot of refights from story bosses. But
yeah, let's talk about this. Yeah, let's talk about this quickly from 2 points of view, because me and you have 2 different points of view on this, right?
Yeah.
For me, I can't believe I'm about to say these words because it seems fucking stupid. As a Kingdom Hearts story guy, it's funny. We do exist. I can't finish the sentence. But as a KH story guy, this DLC sucked so much. It was 3 hours long, and there was some cool story bits and some bit fan service moments. But if you're a story guy, don't buy the if you're not a heavy 100% to Kingdom Hearts person. When I say 100%, I mean if you don't do all the optional bosses, if you don't like extra difficulty stuff, this isn't for you. Don't bother. Don't just wait. Buy it on sale if you have to play. If you're one of those people that has to play it, wait for a sale. Don't buy it because it's not worth the money. Anyway, from a gameplay point of view, go on, Cal. You can finish the rest up.
So from a gameplay point of view, this is basically split up into 3 different chunks. You have Remind, which is where most of the story beats happen. Then you have Limit Cut, which is my favorite part. That's where you fight just a room full of super bosses, and it's great. And then you have the Secret Episode, which is the ultimate final boss in the form of
you fight Dylan Sprouse.
You fight Dylan Sprouse. But from
it's in the Hotel Tipton and everything. Dude, it's great.
But from what was it? The Limit Cut. Those super bosses are straight up some of the best bosses I've ever fought in a video game. And let me put this in perspective. I'm someone who was not necessarily against Kingdom Hearts 3, but more so
Oh, you are.
indifferent to Kingdom Hearts 3.
You're against it. You don't.
I have good things to say about it when the good things show up. It just takes until the end of the game for the good stuff to come up.
This is the thing that is all the problem. And I'm not saying this is you, but with every person that says that they are like indifferent about KH3 online, is they say that, but then I've never heard a positive thing out of their fucking mouth in their life, when it's like, I'm not against KH3, but I literally hate every single fucking aspect of this video game. I'm like, okay, if you say so, Kingdom Hearts fans, if you say so. But
I mean, yeah, there are things I don't like about Kingdom Hearts 3, but I'm not saying it's the worst game ever. That goes to fucking Dream Drop distance.
People act as if Kingdom Hearts 3 is a bad video game.
Not.
And I've had this argument before. It's not. It's a really well-made video game.
It is.
If you don't like, it's like The Last of Us. If you don't like the content, then that's on you. But from what they were set out to do, it's really well done.
Yeah.
For what they set out to do.
Yeah.
It's just your ideas and your like what you want from that game isn't what the creators wanted.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you just got to kind of part ways and just respect it for what it is, but then say, I don't like this, but I can respect that it's still a quality product, right? It isn't a dream drop. It isn't
Birth by Sleep
garbage. Yeah, it's not birth. Don't get me started. Right, anyway.
That's for another video.
Another Kingdom Hearts podcast. Let's do that.
Oh, baby.
Oh, man.
We'll do that when the rhythm game comes out.
Oh, boy.
Spoilers.
One of us are going to play.
And it's me. I'm not even gonna hide it. It's me. I can't wait. Anyway, carry on.
So anyways, I am not a Kingdom Hearts story guy, but I am a Kingdom Hearts gameplay guy, and that limit cut super bosses was was like heroin for me. I loved that shit. You get a room with 13 of the greatest super bosses in video game history. I'm gonna flat out say it. They are really well done. Those fights are so well done. There's such a steep learning curve to it, and I just love how much you're forced to just stop playing aggressive and just take a second and look at what's going on. Like, which is something you never had to do in Kingdom Hearts 3 otherwise, because you weren't in a situation where bosses are just constantly throwing out hitboxes.
Yeah.
It's just such a huge change of pace from the rest of the game, and it really brought me back to how I felt playing Kingdom Hearts 2 when I got to Cavern of Remembrance in that game and getting to fight all the super bosses there. It just felt all so good. And then it's capped off. The DLC is capped off with the fight against Yozora, who's like beyond difficult for a boss fight. The game
ludicrous.
It's ridiculous. That is like the definition of a bullet hell boss fight, and it's so great. But the thing is, none of these fights ever truly feel unfair. Like, even against Yozora, all of his attacks can be punished if you know how to do it, if you can find the opening. And that's the shit that I love in any hack and slash, is just rewarding the player for good play. And it's just such an amazing change of pace from how base KH3 was, where you were pretty much reliant on using magic to get through the game. It just blows my mind, honestly. And it really shows that Osaka team can make good boss fights and a good game, but I question how much influence Disney had on the base game for their design choices.
My thing with it is I respect it, and it's really well done. It's just, I feel the reason it's also partially doing stuff like this is the reason that you're always going to have this great divide between Kingdom Hearts fans, right?
Yeah.
Is the base game doesn't teach a casual player like myself that isn't big into Kingdom Hearts combat. There's someone that enjoys the Kingdom Hearts games but isn't into combat. The game doesn't teach you or prepare you enough to just go into limit cut and just have fun. It literally, unless you're into hack and slash games, and when I say into it, I mean really fucking into it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh man, maybe
it's literally because Kingdom.
Hunter, you would enjoy this.
Because KH3 is the most flashy game ever, it's hard to concentrate if you're new to this kind of stuff. It's hard to pick up stuff because flashes are going on everywhere.
Yeah.
It's too bright. It's too noisy at times. A lot of these fights are super fucking noisy in terms of visual noise, right? That to me, it's great, but what it fails to, like how Kingdom Hearts 3 is great for casual players, but what it failed to do was have a gameplay loop that enticed hardcore gameplay fans, right? What this Limit Cut did was the exact opposite, where it had all the gameplay loops and it had everything that people wanted for the hardcore fans, but it had no accessible way to get the other people into it.
Yeah.
And that's my main fault. I think that's what the main fault is. You had two pieces of content, one which was which was much larger than the other. The super bosses are way larger than the story content that you get.
Oh, for sure.
Yet Osaka team and Nomura decided, hey, what are we going to advertise most? The story bit, and make it to be a story thing. So if you're going to tie in a short bit of story content with this extremely hard set of super bosses, at least make a way to make it accessible. Give people the gameplay tutorials that they need. Give people the difficulty curve so that they can learn from it. There's no way to learn in that mode. There's no way to learn, and because Kingdom Hearts 3 is such an easy game in general, it's not even like people can make the argument, oh, go learn from base KH3. You can't go learn from base KH3.
Nothing in base KH3 prepares you for Limit Cut.
Exactly, which is why I feel like it's really great for one audience and it isn't for the other. And this is, you're always going to have this divide within the fan base because they're never catering to both audiences at the same time. They're just either catering to one or the other, and this is why you're always going to have fights between KH fans in this regard.
For sure. Limit Cut is definitely more of a trial by fire kind of thing, where you just kind of have to start out making mistakes and dying for like hours on end until you eventually just learn how the boss's patterns go. And honestly, a lot of the fights, I'd say those are better than the KH2 super bosses, because a lot of KH2 super bosses were just gimmick fights. You had like Zexian's Book World, Vexen's Data Sora, Demix's clones. It's just chock full of gimmick fights. But in Limit Cut, there's only one I can think of, and that's Luxord, where you have to deal with his card bullshit.
Oh.
Yeah. And so there's like 12 good boss fights, and then Luxord's just off in a corner eating crayons.
It's an interesting piece of DLC, to be sure.
Yeah.
It very much is the antithesis of base KH3 in the way that I think that it is as equally great in areas as base KH3 is in terms of some areas, but also equally flawed just in the opposite areas. They genuinely are like the fucking parallel opposite of each other, and they're both the same game. It's one of those interesting things.
I had no expectations going into Remind and Limit Cut when it was first announced, mostly because they were just advertising story, and I'm like, I didn't care about the story for KH3. Why should I care about $30 story I'm not going to pay attention to in this game? But I'd say the purchase was justified just for the super bosses alone.
Yeah.
Anyways,
there definitely is content there if you're willing to do it. And when I say willing, I genuinely mean don't be a KH3 fan that is just like, yeah, I'm willing to give it a go. I mean, no, you really need to like hack and slashes. This isn't the story's going to get you through with this.
Right.
The story attached to Limit Cut and the ending cutscenes for Yozora are great, and it really has fueled the speculation on future Kingdom Hearts. It really has lit up the community in that regard. But it's not worth the fucking entry unless you really are into Kingdom Hearts combat.
You just need to be prepared for like a different play style from what base KH3 wanted you to do. Because I remember even like when you die to Yozora, one of the gameplay tips is calmly study Yozora's movements and not just run around like an idiot throwing out hitboxes, because that's not gonna work. You're gonna get shot with lasers and he's gonna steal your Keyblade.
Oh, nice.
He does that.
He does that.
But anyway,
first thing he does with it is cast water. Because why not? Also, Yozora.
What are you gonna do to stop him?
Also, Yozora is just a really cool character. I love his design. I don't care how much like Noctis and Riku he looks like. It's such a great design, and I love it.
But it looks better.
It really does.
I am really interested to see what they do with Yozora in the future.
I want to see
and how they
this
make
goes
me hate
forward.
him.
Yeah. that too.
Yeah.
Anyways,
It'll be interesting.
That's about everything
There
I
you
had
go.
to say on those DLCs.
There's the DLC segment. Hunter, have you played any DLC? I think that's it. I think we're good. Has there been any DLC?
Not as far as the things I'm into. Usually, once I finish a game, unless it already came with DLC when I bought it, I don't really go back. With the odd
There are a few
exception,
expansions.
like
Yeah.
Dragon Age or something.
Yeah, the only times I ever do is if they do like a major expansion like this.
Yeah.
That's the only time when I ever do, like the Frozen Wilds and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, Frozen Wilds is a good one.
Right, Hunter, how many games do you have left on your list?
Well, besides the one that you left for Kyle, I've got one left.
The big mystery.
Okay.
We've arrived at my favorite.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, Kyle, talk about Xenoblade.
Oh, I've talked so much already.
Right, Hunter, let's talk
break.
about Xenoblade, and then Kyle can pick up what we miss off, right?
All right.
Xenoblade DE is on all of our lists as a game that we have definitely played this year.
Yeah.
Go on, Hunter.
All right, so Xenoblade 1, feels weird to say all of this after already talking about. Okay, Xenoblade Definitive Edition is really cool. I enjoyed it more than the second game, despite having played the second game first and all that. I thought that the first half of the story was really cool, and then it dipped a little bit and brought it back. The cast is pretty great. Dunban is amazing.
Should have been main character, yeah.
Honestly, though, the combat's a bit more simplistic than the second game, but that didn't bother me that much. The music's really great too.
I feel like it's interesting because me and you have the opposite opinions of this game, and it genuinely is. I think Xenoblade 2 is better than Xenoblade 1. Fight me, nerds.
I do too.
I also think it's funny because I think the second half of the game is stronger than the first half of the game. I feel like there's a hitch in the gameplay which is called Button Valley that can go fuck itself. But literally the worst 4 hours I've experienced in an RPG in a long time. Dude, it just never ends. It's the never-ending valley of button pressing. Like, honestly, but I really love the story. I like 90% of the characters. I just really don't like Shulk. And now Shulk grew on me by the end again, but there's a
space
for half of it for like 60 for 60% of this game I don't like Shulk. For a good 60% of this game I don't like Shulk. And I don't really like Fiora either. I very strongly said at the start of our first impressions that I thought it was dumb that Fiora got fridged, but then when later things I'm like maybe that should have been the way they went with it.
Yeah.
But no, it's an interesting game. I appreciate it and I liked it, but I still like Xenoblade 2 more. And also I think when we have a discussion with one of my games that I'm going to mention in a bit, Xenoblade DE is very much everyone was Future Connected. Let's talk about Future Connected. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
It's a 3-hour expansion that's focused on 2 Nopons more than Melia and Shulk, which is what it's supposed to be about. And most of the additions, it largely is like just UI improvements and model changes.
Mm-hmm.
And for better or worse, I would have hated to play this game on the Wii.
You would have, yes.
Because without the new map and UI system and without the new models, I don't think I could have got through all the way through this game, to be honest, because it's just the models are so much better and the UI enhancements are so great.
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, I think that the game's great, and if you've never played Xenoblade before, go and play Xenoblade.
Yeah.
It's pretty great. If you're into JRPGs, you'll probably like Xenoblade. But unless you're a hardcore Xenoblade 1 fan, I don't know if there's enough here to justify moving over.
See, I think...
Unless you really are a big fan.
I think there is enough in the terms of, like, quality of life changes from the original.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, any quest you do gets marked on your map. If it's an active quest, it'll show you where the thing is. It just... Everything in this game is just so streamlined from how it was in the original that I couldn't see myself going back to the original and thinking, yeah, this was okay. I enjoyed it. But there's just
Yeah.
way too many quality of life changes. The challenge mode was a nice addition. I really hope they add in more stuff in the future, because there's not really that many challenges in this one to really warrant wanting to go back to it. I don't know. I'm still kind of holding out hope for some like Xenoblade 2 DLC to come out that connects the two games again, and like Rex becomes playable in main game.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It would be interesting.
It'd be interesting, but
I think the quality of life is definitely there. I just don't think there's enough new in the definitive edition, which is fine.
I mean, if you're a Xenoblade fan, you've already bought this.
If you're a Xenoblade fan, I don't know why we're talking. Yeah, you've already bought
this
it.
game.
Yeah,
but I'm like, yeah. But if you're someone that just like kind of, oh yeah, I liked the original Xenoblade or whatever, and wasn't like going, oh my god, finally I can play it on a good console.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's enough of like there's quality of life changes, but other than that, I don't think there's enough new there. Like I wouldn't recommend it on Future Connected at all.
No, Future Connected. I mean, it's a harmless little romp of a side story, but it wasn't anything special. You can tell it was definitely like an afterthought.
Yeah.
It's not nearly as fleshed out as something like Torna was for Xenoblade 2.
Well, yeah, Torna was its own game, essentially.
Yeah.
So.
God, Torna was...
But yeah. Torna's great. Torna's the best Xenoblade game, dude. I love it. Genuinely. It is the best Xenoblade game, as long as you go in knowing that you need to do the side quests.
Yeah.
It's a great video game.
Yeah. My opinion on it definitely changed the second time around.
It was definitely a fun time. Cal, is that it for your games?
Yeah.
Okay, so have you just got one left, Hunter?
Yep.
Right, so I guess it's time for... Okay, guys, I need to warm up. I haven't talked about this game in a good, 5 weeks on the podcast, so...
Oh, man.
Hope you guys are ready.
Let's hope he's not burned out
Me, Ryuji. Persona 5 Royal is my favorite game of all time. I think I've said this multiple times already. And to me, I don't know. I've been saying this to Hunter. I said this to Hunter yesterday, where this other game is currently my contender for Game of the Year, not P5R. But it's because of the base game P5 being a 2017 game. That's the only thing that's dragging me away from giving this my Game of the Year so far award, essentially. And I said, give me 6 months and I might just be like, fuck it. I'll take the heat. I'll put this as my Game of the Year. Why not?
I'll take
it. Yeah, I'll just take it, dude. I'll take it. But it's not just the gameplay enhancements and all the changes, the quality of life like they did with Xenoblade. There was a lot of quality of life for P5 that they did, which was just great. It's not that. It's just the extra 30 hours of gameplay that they added to this game is not only what I personally believe to be the strongest content in that game period now. It's the best palace, it's the best story, it's the best characters.
It's the best music.
It's the best music. They took everything about Persona 5 and went, what are the best parts? Let's make another 30 hours of that. It genuinely, I have never smiled so much in my life. I've never looked at fan service and just went, I'm all in, right? Usually with fan service, there's always a point where you're like, yeah, I can see you're just doing this for fans, right? This is genuinely just I see what you're trying to do and it's working. But this game, it takes you on a whirlwind. I honestly think the new story is incredible. It runs flawlessly. It's really all the quality of life just adds on top of it. But the new story itself is like just that. If it was a 30, say if it was just say you just paid $20 and got that expansion, and you got none of the benefits, I'd still be talking about it. The story's really strong. It's really great. It makes me. This is the first bit of content that is fully new. I don't know how much people are into the Persona universe in terms of development, but Persona 5 was the last game with the same lead that's been working on Persona for so long. At this point, he's kind of taking a step back from being the creative lead, and Royal was the first time where the kind of young guys were like, okay, this is all our stuff now. Let's see what we can do with it, and it really showed. And I've talked about this game to death over the past 12 weeks. I love it. It's my favorite game ever. I'm not going to give it my Game of the Year so far award because I feel like it's unfair because a lot of it is based on the original game. But the fact that they managed to take my already favorite game of all time and add the additional 30 hours be the best part of that game now, including the final fight, which is incredible, by the way, much better than the original final P5 boss fight. It's just everything about it just cranked it up to 11 for me as a game, and I loved it. And I'm sure you'll still hear me talking about it all the time because that's what I tend to do. But no, I genuinely think that if it wasn't for me forcefully pulling myself back, it would be my game of the year. Oh, I'd already know it'd be my game of the year coming to the end of it. We'll see how I feel at the end of the year, but yeah, P5R should. If you haven't played P5 already, you should definitely play it. And I said it again, if you've played P5, those extra 30 hours, if you're like a fan of P5, those extra 30 hours are so worth it. Especially if you're a fan of certain characters. I won't say names, but the 2 new characters are pretty cool.
They are.
And pancakes. There you go.
Pancakes.
If you're a fan of if you're a fan of them introducing 2 of the best characters in any Persona game, and pancakes getting a bit more developed into one of my favorite characters also now, then yeah, you should definitely check Royal out if you haven't already, especially if it goes on sale. It's really worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Hunter.
Yep.
You and I both have the exact same game of the year for so far, should we say, our favorite game for this year so far.
Uh-huh.
We both knew it going into this. We'd both be talking about this game, so I'm going to let you talk about it first. Why is Final Fantasy VII Remake our favorite game? Go on, I'll let you talk about it.
It turned out way better than I think I would have hoped. As far as like, if you like, at the point in time that this game got announced, aside from the hype of they're remaking Final Fantasy VII, taking a step back and being like, oh, Square Enix is remaking this beloved classic.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I didn't want this, but it turned out better than I would have expected. Honestly, they managed to bring to life they managed to make the game feel like how you would remember it. Not necessarily how it was, but how you remembered it, how you filled in the blanks when you were younger, and all of that, as far as someone who would have played it back when it came out, and all of that. Like, the music is brought to life. You can still feel the origin of where all of those songs came from, but they've been modernized and made into their own new beast in a lot of ways. The characters get expanded on in ways that are just fantastic. I actually care about the Avalanche crew. Cloud is a return to form as far as after his portrayal after the original game has been rocky at best, and now it's been brought back. Eris, I actually like in this game, so that's a positive. Barrett is fantastic, so on and so forth. And the combat system, Square has been trying to nail this stupid stagger mechanic for like a decade, and it took until now for it to work.
Right? They finally got it to work when they needed it to.
They tried it in Kingdom Hearts 3, did not work.
Yeah. And they've been working on that dumb mechanic since like Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah.
It's taken until now for it to actually feel good. And so that layered on top of the materia system, it just felt really good to go into combat, and the way you progressed your characters was really nice. Mm-hmm. Overall, the package is great, and the story was nice. It gave me something to look forward to in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. I had no attachment to Final Fantasy VII at all. I've never given a shit about Final Fantasy VII. I've never cared about the characters or the world, and the only thing I ever knew about it before going in is that one spoiler that everyone knows on the face of the planet. And I'm not going to say it because apparently there are people that don't know it. So, but that one spoiler, everyone knows what I'm talking about. I knew that, and that's about it. And then I played it, and it's honestly the most fun I've had playing a video game in the longest time. It not only is the combat system like my favorite Square Enix combat system that I think I've played. It's so much fun. There's so much thought to it. The ATB system, like I've always thought that with Final Fantasy, looking at gameplay, the ATB things, I'm like, there's and all the what's the time battle? Is it
active time battle?
Active time battle. That's it. Thank you. I always thought that in the turn-based games, it was really fucking dumb, and I didn't really like the look of it. But the way that they've taken that mechanic and turned it into this command bar and the slow motion and everything, it just flows so well. It's really well done on all difficulties. It feels great on easy. It feels great on hard. Like, they genuinely nailed it on all fronts, and the characters are brilliant. Like, they genuinely have made these characters real, right? They finally are the characters that they wish they were in the original game. Barrett is incredible. Like, honestly, there's just Barrett has some of my favorite scenes in the entire game. Tifa is really well done for someone that I thought that was not going to get that much, should I say, for a character that they could have very easily just have done a lazy job with. Tifa is really well done. Aerith, I like. Aerith is the one where I'm always like, she's a bit too kooky and quirky, but at the same time, it's like, I'll put up with it. And then the Avalanche crew are all great. Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge are all really well done. Just the entire, and the voice
Oh yeah, the performances are top notch.
Top notch, like, especially for a fucking Square Enix game where it genuinely is usually. Square Enix is the definition of hit or miss voice acting. And it was definitely, everything was a hit in this game, which is surprising for a Square Enix game. And then the ending, without saying anything, leaves me very excited for where they could possibly go with this game.
Yeah.
It's really I would, if you had told me very early on that of all the games that I played, that Final Fantasy VII Remake would be one of my favorite games that come out this year, would be a success, I'd be like, you're joking. That game was destined to failure forever. We've all been thinking that the Final Fantasy VII Remake would be a shit show on release. We all thought it would be, and it's the opposite of that. It's great, and it's one of those games where I already want to go back and replay it at some point. It's really well done. Chapter 9, perfect, genuinely, in every way. The music's great. The amount of times that they've retooled the battle theme in every which way to every setting, and it just works every time. Like, honestly, I really wish, I said this in the spoiler cast, I really wish Square Enix put this much effort into the rest of their games. Because when they did this, it really shows with Final Fantasy VII Remake that they put the time and effort into it. And I hope they keep it up for the rest of the franchise.
Yeah, for the rest of the 7 Remake at least. Maybe throw a little bit of that the way of Final Fantasy 16 if you're feeling bold, Square.
Oh, that'd be nice.
It would be.
I really hope Nomura has taken what he's learned from Remake back over to Kingdom Hearts while he's working on that as well. I really hope so. Because it genuinely is great. It's such a solid game. And I really do like it. It was and I played this after Royal, by the way, and I said that it was a curse. Every time I play P5, the game after it, I usually hate more than I'd like to admit. Like, I played Nier Automata and I didn't like it as much as everyone else did, and I solely blame it on P5. And here we go. FF7 Remake genuinely was like one of my favorite games I played in recent memory. It really is good, and you should definitely pick it up.
I 100
if you haven't already.
As well, yeah.
Especially if it gets its next.
Don't wait for the other parts.
Refresh. Yeah, don't wait for the other part. And don't worry. I've seen a lot of people on the internet saying that you need to have played. Like, you won't get the full experience out of FF7 Remake if you haven't played the original. Fuck off. It's great either way. You don't need to.
You don't.
Who fucking cares? They made it for people to jump in. If anything, if you're like me and you feel like, playing a 20-odd-year-old RPG might actually put me off the franchise more than it will get me in, then play the remake. It's great. It really is well done. And I really hope they keep it up.
Me too.
So, I don't know about you guys, but we've talked that much about our favorite games that I feel like we could save the other upcoming look at the rest of the year for a whole nother episode.
Oh, man.
Clickbait.
Oh. Well, save us the trouble of figuring out what we're going to do next week.
We just got
dude. We just talked so much about our favorite games this year that we just ran out of time to talk about it. But well, we'll
always next week.
We'll make it up. Next week we'll talk all about the upcoming games and what we're looking forward to and how we think it'll all go down. next week, a double bill, a two-parter, and that'll then lead us into Ghost of Tsushima. Finally, another Sony first-party game, because we haven't had enough of those. It's not like we just had one, but I'll take another gladly.
Show with me and Ethan.
Another me and Hunter show, dude. That's why you're the co-host, dude, because we play the same game.
Kyle seemed mildly interested in Ghost of Tsushima when we made him look at trailers.
I'd probably pick it up. Yeah, looked fun enough.
Nice.
I like Sucker Punch. They did a good job with Sly. And that's
cool.
all I know.
Infamous is pretty great too.
See, I've heard Infamous is good. I've just never felt interested.
The problem is 1 and 2 are stuck on PS3, and Second Son was great at the time, but it just hasn't aged as well.
That's unfortunate.
My problem with Second Son is it's really fun, and if you haven't played an Infamous game before, you'll probably really like it. But me and my friend Rahul had played it at launch, and we both really loved Second Son. And then so we kept saying, when people were like, oh, Second Son was free on Plus or it was super cheap, and they're like, oh, should I play it? I'm like, yeah, it's really good. And then when people have played it later, like 5 years after it came out, people are like, it's not that great. I'm like, okay, it must be just, it was great at the time at least.
Yeah.
But no, it's pretty great. So yeah, Ghost of Tsushima, and then from there, we'll see. So there we go. We'll save the rest of 2020, because God, we're only halfway through this horrible year. For next time. This year's dragged, man. This year has genuinely dragged.
I had to look up and see what games even came out this year.
Same. Like when you said I just only remembered Remind.
Yeah.
I genuinely forgot that Remind was this year. It feels like an eon ago.
I had to double check that, make sure it even came out this year.
Well, there you go. Who knows? And who knows? Maybe in December we'll forget all of these games that we've already talked about.
Oh man,
it'll be great.
That'd be unfortunate.
These
games were great.
Yeah, these games were great.
They were great, and you should play all of them.
All of them.
But for now, that has been our show. This was Hot Gamers Only.
Also, one quick sidebar. There is a demo also for FF7 Remake available if you
go play it. That's a great demo. They give you the whole first level.
First chapter. It's all there.
They genuinely give you like the first hour of the game for you to play, so go do it. Because then you'll be like, oh, an hour, that's pretty generous, and then you get another like 30. Yeah. It's great. Go play it. Go play the demo.
Anyways, do the outro.
But yeah, this has been our show. Thank you for listening. You can find us on podcast services everywhere. Give us a rating if you do listen on podcast services. We'd really appreciate it. You can go to the YouTube channel at bit.ly/thegiggers and subscribe over there. Please do. We really would appreciate it. Please. Other than that, you can find us every Monday at 5 p.m. Sometimes we do bonus episodes like Spoilercast. Like last week, if you didn't know, we released a Xenoblade Spoilercast last Friday. So if you didn't see that, go check that one out as well if you like Xenoblade and want to hear more about that. And as always, we did a Last of Us Spoilercast as well, which you can go and click on as well, last Monday. But other than that, we'll be back next week. We'll talk about the rest of the games coming up. It'll be pretty great. Maybe we'll get some other people on. Maybe we'll get Jack and Sam on to talk about Crash and Yakuza. Maybe. We'll see. Because there's still some of those games coming out as well.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, that's our show. Hunter, where can people find you?
YouTube.com/ReaperHunter23.
And Kyle, where can people find you?
Find me on Twitter at KDavisSRL and also on Twitch, twitch.tv/KDavisSRL.
Very cool. You can find me, as always, on youtube.com/WhatAJames. Haha. Send you over to that dead channel. Or if not, I've recently started streaming a tiny bit again. Every week. I also have started streaming again. So you can find me on twitch.tv/chaoticether. Good luck spelling it.
We have a good battle going in Crash 2 speedrunning right now.
Oh, we do. And Kyle will definitely win because I lost all momentum yesterday.
I beat Ethan for a total of 3 hours, and then he beat me back by 6 seconds.
Yeah. It was fun while it lasted, dude. I needed it. I needed the revenge, PB. I needed it.
Revenge.
It's all good. Gotta put you in your place, dude. Gotta put you in place.
I woke up and saw I moved down on the leaderboard, and I'm like, that sucks.
Hey, I've held that 30 I've held 32nd place on speedrun.com for so long. I want it back. Damn it, 32nd is mine. I've had it for 2 years. You can't take it away from me.
That just reminds me of when Jumpy Luff beat my time, and I'm like, I'm not having this. So then I beat him back that day.
That was what I was like. That's why I went and tried to get a PB last night, because it was like literally within the part, like literally both Jack and Kyle have improved their PB by minutes, and I have literally sat around the same fucking second for the past month and a half, and I was like, I'm sick of this. I genuinely am sick of this. Everyone else is improving by minutes. I'm getting like 5-second PBs. I'm sick of this. So that's why I did it. But hey, we'll see. You can find me on twitch.tv/chaoticether or on Twitter with the same name. Good luck spelling it. I'm not spelling it out, so good luck. Other than that, I guess that's it. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. But until then, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Toodaloo.